Update. My 26 female soon-to-be ex-husband, 30 male, attempted to end himself. Original post. We've been married for 3 years, together for 6 years. Thankfully no kids yet. 2 weeks ago, I found out that my husband was having an affair with his co-worker for 2 or 3 months. I packed my bags and within 2 days I had moved out of his house completely. I haven't filed for divorce yet. The thing is, he never said a word to me. When I confronted him, he just sat there quietly like a statue. It was super frustrating because he wasn't giving me an explanation. Not even a simple, I did it because. I called him a loser and left the next day. I didn't reach out, he didn't either. I thought maybe he has already invited a co-worker to live with him now that the wife is finally out of the picture. His sister and I have always been super close and she called me recently. We chatted. And I asked about him and a coworker, but she told me that he has been following his normal routine as far as she knows. She doesn't visit him that often, so she didn't know much about how he's been doing. Well, I was angry and super upset. I thought that maybe he's still seeing the coworker, but I had no one to confirm it. 2 days ago, he emailed me. It was long and confusing. I didn't gather much because it seemed his thoughts were all over the place. And there were just so many grammar and spelling mistakes that I had to read some of the lines multiple times to understand them. My hunch is that he was drunk because he's very proficient in English, both speaking and writing. I only gather a few things from the email. That he was sorry and he didn't want to ruin our marriage like this. And that his affair had nothing to do with me and I was too good for him and whatnot. It all just seemed pathetic and I felt so disgusted by him. I wasn't planning on replying, but I ended up writing a short email back. I told him when I'll be filing the petition for divorce and that he should shove his excuses up his butt. In my defense, I was pissed and emotional. He didn't reply to that. I thought that was the end of it and went to sleep. Then, his sister calls me sometime after 3 a.m. and gives me the news. This woman tells me that he tried to end himself by ingesting my mother-in-law's sleeping pills. I didn't believe it at first, but she's sobbing and screaming on the other side of the phone, so it was obviously real. To be honest, even now it feels like I'm in a dream. It just doesn't feel real. My mother-in-law was the one who found him, and he's in the hospital right now. I've been sitting in the same place for hours now. His sister didn't ask me to come. I didn't ask if I should visit. She gave me the news and hung up. I called her again in the morning. She told me she'd call me back, but she hasn't yet. I didn't want to bother her, so I didn't call again. I'm confused now. Should I go and visit him? Should I just stay where I am? I unofficially left him at his house 2 weeks ago. We haven't talked except for the emails. He did mention in the email that he had been feeling depressed, but I thought it was another one of his pathetic excuses for cheating. At times, I remember what he put me through and I feel angry and hurt again. But I obviously never wanted him to do such a thing. I'm not going to get back together with him either way. Our marriage is over for me, but I'm stuck. On one hand, I feel obligated to visit and take care of him, but on the other hand, I feel like I have lost the right to do that. Because I left him, I don't plan on going back. I don't have any friends to ask advice from, so here I am. Reddit, what do I do? Now for the top advice before reading the update. He did it to get you back. It's a classic manipulation technique. The attempt was genuine. He's literally in the ICU. Plus he's never been the manipulative or abusive kind. So doing that as a manipulation tactic seems out of his character. Follow through. You left him because he cheated on you. Stay the course. While the attempt is unfortunate, that's a complication, not a reason to change your mind. He earned consequences for his cheating and must deal. Don't feel any obligation to him now to take care of him or anything else. He has family, and for that matter, let the affair partner pitch in. It's just hard sitting here and not doing anything. We've been together for so long, and I feel like it's human decency to visit him or his family at least once. No, your presence is highly likely only going to complicate things. If you feel you need to stay informed because you care, talk to the sister. If he's so unwell that he attempted to end himself, then he's probably better off focusing on his recovery rather than seeing you right now. You would be a reminder of everything he did wrong that led to his actions. If, however, his actions were a manipulation tactic to get you to forget what he did by making you feel sorry for him, then going to see him would only reinforce that his behavior works, and you're risking falling into a cycle of threats until you feel trapped. Tread carefully. Yes, I worked with self-harm attempts patients in the ICU, and when they were related to relationship loss, then the ex would show up, get their hopes up, and then have to crush them all over again. You are in no way responsible for this attempt he took, nor any future actions. If you have no desire to work on the relationship, then continue as you have, with minimal contact. Be advised, you will probably fall out with his family as their main concern here is making him feel better as quickly as possible, and they will see you as a key component. Ultimately and objectively, the best thing is to stay consistent with your behavior. Sorry you have had to endure so much in a short time. He made mistakes but was still your husband, so I'm sure you really have been hurting. Now for the update. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice on my previous post. I probably would have done something stupid had many of you not guided me. Many people mentioned how my presence would make matters worse, so I decided to not go. Instead, I dropped a message to his sister that she mustn't hesitate to call me if she or my mother-in-law need help with anything. I did mention in the message that it would be better if I don't visit or meet him for his own sake. She called me after a while and we had a long chat. There was a chance that he might have to pay a fine because attempted such act is punishable in our country. But as of now, he only needs to be rehabilitated once he's out of the hospital. He should be fine? His sister told me some technical stuff, but it's all a blur in my head right now and I can't seem to remember it properly. It's a lot to take in, and I'm having a hard time organizing my thoughts. Apparently, he broke it off with a woman he was having an affair with after I had left. The woman reached out to me a few days back. She apologized for the mess and said that she'll remove herself from the situation. I don't intend on replying back to her. I know I'm going to lose my cool if I talk to her. His sister also requested me to wait a little longer before filing for divorce and give him some time. I agreed because him and his family are going through a lot, and I don't mind waiting a little longer. I asked her if she blamed me for his attempt, and she admitted that, for a while, she did think if I hadn't left, maybe none of this would have happened. But she understands why I did what I did, and I'm not responsible for his actions. I told her I was grateful to her for being so understanding when everything was so chaotic. Other than her, a few relatives also called me up and asked me to move back into his house because men slip up sometimes and I should forgive him. But I shut them down and made it clear that I'm not going to do that for my own sake and for my husband's sake as well. I'm not going to take him back just because he's a man, and it's okay for him to slip up. Well, if the roles would have been reversed here, these same people would have cussed me into oblivion. As for me, I think I'll try out therapy. Also try to reconnect with old friends and go out of the house more. Last year, I had made a list of historical places I want to visit in my city. I suppose I'll start with that. Again, thank you to you all helpful and kind people. Have a good day. Did the right thing, Opie. This is not on you at all. Therapy is a good start. Begin rebuilding your life and file for divorce when you are good and ready. I am sorry this happened to you. Nobody deserves to be in this situation. Men slip up sometimes and I should forgive him. I imagine those relatives wouldn't extend you the same grace. I'm glad you're doing what's best for you. Your soon-to-be ex-husband seems to be in self-destruct mode and only he can pull himself away from that spiral. You are not responsible for his actions. It sounds like you are making all the right decisions on your behalf, all the way up to putting his needs above your desire to be there physically at all. 2 to 3 months is unfortunately just too long of an affair to be reconciled, in my opinion, and a divorce is simply inevitable. If he felt true remorse for your sake, he would have opened up sooner or been more honest at the confrontation. I believe he is currently working through his own sorrow for himself and he's acted on his own self-pity. This was not because of you. This was despite you. This was, despite your devotion to the marriage, him acting on his own self-pity from the affair to the attempt self-harm. Therapy is really the only suggestion on his behalf, but please stay vigilant in your self-worth while navigating this difficult situation. I'm so glad Opie's looking out for herself first and foremost here. She's completely blameless. and will be much better off when they're fully extracted herself from the whole situation. Last story is titled, Update. My 40 male, wife 37 female won't stop reminding me that I asked her to terminate our daughter, 6 female. Original post. Me and my wife have been together for 17 years, married for 12. From the beginning of our relationship, she has always said she's child-free. And there was no problem because I was too. At the time, we also were living in a crappy apartment in a bad town, so even if we wanted children, it would not be where we lived for majority of our relationship. 7 years ago, my wife was slowly getting off of her birth control because of health-related problems, and during that time frame, she got pregnant. My initial reaction to her being pregnant was, "So we're going to terminate it, right?" And my wife agreed. Set an appointment. Then the day of the appointment, decided she wanted to keep the baby because she grew connected to it. And if I didn't respect her decision, we should divorce. I love my wife, so I didn't divorce her and decided to try to be the best parent I could. I picked 3 jobs so we could move into a better neighborhood. And starting those 3 jobs made me extra stressed and anxious, and eventually leading me to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety, which I started to manage better now with the help of meds and therapy. She gave birth, we had our daughter, and anytime I smile, play with, or talk to my daughter, my wife is always around a corner saying, "Aren't you glad you decided to not get rid of her?" Or, "It's a shame you didn't want her." It's starting to spiral me back into depression because now I'm thinking I almost ended my daughter. But I'm also upset at my wife because my daughter doesn't understand what her mom means is off right now because she's 6. But if she were to recall what her mother said later in life, I fear it will make my daughter hate me. I don't know what to do at this point because now when I look at my daughter, I think in the back of my head I almost ended her. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Those comments are not okay at all. Your daughter will grow up hearing them. A long discussion is in order with your wife and maybe therapy. We do go to marriage counseling and she has gotten better on different problems of our marriage. It's just these comments that are affecting it badly. She needs individual counseling. This is her problem. It's absolutely not normal, right, or fair for her to keep bringing this up as if it's a valid point or a gotcha moment. She also wanted a procedure. She went as far as to make an appointment before changing her mind. How has she conveniently forgotten this? You love your daughter. You worked incredibly hard to provide a safe and loving environment for her. As long as you're a good father, the past is irrelevant. You should let her know that you won't continue to tolerate her mistreatment. She either works on herself and stops being cruel and hurtful, or you'll divorce her, for the sake of your own mental health, and for the sake of your child. Only you know what she's like overall, but just from this glimpse, she sounds thoroughly unpleasant. You either need extreme counseling or a divorce. Your wife's behavior is not normal behavior at all. Bro, that is beyond messed up. It's been 7 years. You were going off a previous agreement. She made a decision, and you backed her. She is mistreating and manipulating you emotionally and damaging your relationship with your daughter. Frankly, I couldn't stay with someone who behaved in this way. And now for the update. First off, I want to thank you all for the advice, and before I give the update, I would like to answer a few questions majority had. Have we tried counseling/therapy? Yes. We are both in individual therapies and marriage counseling, as is my daughter with a child therapist. Why would you remain intimate while my wife was getting off of birth control? One of the things our counselor said to try was an active intimate life at least twice a week. Also, because we were both under the impression if she were to get pregnant, then we would terminate it. Why haven't you divorced yet? Because I grew up in a split household, and the amount of times my parents fought over custody for me and my siblings is not something I would want my daughter to grow up in. I also don't want only to see my daughter half the time. Now to the update. I sat my wife down after dropping my daughter off at my parents and told her if she kept making these comments, I would divorce her, and asked her to explain why she would tell me those things, and also told her how it was making me severely depressed again. Majority of you were right. She broke down and told me she hated being pregnant. She didn't want to be a mother anymore, and she hated the fact that she kept our daughter. She said she can't stand to look at me while I'm happy around our daughter because she hates that I became a good parent so quickly, because we were supposed to be child-free and I'm happy as a father. I told her I gave her the option to remain child-free, and she decided against it, so that's on her. She apologized multiple times and said she would still want to try to make the marriage work. It's just her own issues that are making her be such a witch. She also said she wants to be a good mother to our daughter, and after I told her that I was afraid our daughter would hate me when she is older, she broke down even more and apologized a ton. In the end, she said she wouldn't blame me if I wanted a divorce, but she would still want to try and make us work. Not only for our daughter's sake, but for our sake as well. We are currently working with our therapist and going to start doing family therapy, with her actually trying to change. We are sleeping in separate rooms, and only focusing on our daughter's happiness at the moment. Once again, thank you all, and I will update later on if needed. I'm glad you confronted her with those comments only to find out she hated it. I'm glad you all are in therapy and working things out. My eldest is 15 years old and can still remember things we told her when she was 5. The poison your wife has introduced into her relationship with your daughter is mistreatment, plain and simple. She resents and regrets being a mother, and she is taking it out on your daughter because she resents the relationship you two have. For me personally, that would be a red line. Your daughter is already old enough to make long-term memories of this. Your wife seems to have no intention of becoming Mother of the Year, and I truly fear for your daughter growing up with someone who has spewed those words. It is trying to keep them inside. Even if your wife never says it again, she will surely be thinking it, and your daughter will pick up on it. Are you sure you want your child growing up in an environment like that, where one of the major adults in her life admits to resenting the fact that she's alive and is trying to convince her that the other parent didn't want her either? Can you imagine the long-term psychological scars that will leave your daughter with? Please ask yourself those questions. I'm sorry to be blunt, but choosing your marriage at this point is choosing to roll the dice with your daughter's mental health. There are a lot of things worse than divorce. Scars like that are one of them. She said she wants to be a good mother and wants to change through therapy. What do you suggest OP do? He can't confiscate the daughter from her. She's not a toy. And if they divorce, she'll get 50-50 time anyway. Yes, what she did was messed up and wrong, but if she's honest about wanting to change, why rake her over the coals? I'm glad OP put his foot down and forced her to confront her own issues. If she doesn't actually change, he should definitely divorce her. But she's not the only mom who has regretted having kids, that's for sure. And she can definitely change if she puts in time and effort.